Continue to trickle in. Thank you all so much for joining. My name is Abby Kalkstein. I am the Associate Director of Graduate Admissions, and today you have joined us for an Ask Admissions webinar. We are so lucky to be joined by our Electrical and Systems Engineering program as well. So I hope that folks who joined have questions that are program specific that my awesome colleague can help answer when we get to that portion of the presentation today. But we're going to start just with some kind of general housekeeping and what to expect through this session. So as you might have already seen, this webinar is being recorded. It will be on our YouTube channel in probably the next couple of days. So throughout the session, don't feel like you need to take notes or screenshots or things like that, because this will be posted on our YouTube channel very shortly for you to watch as needed. And then while you're also hopefully on and exploring our YouTube channel, we have a lot of different content related to Penn Engineering Graduate Admissions. We're going to go through some of that today, absolutely. But if there are other programs or other things that you might be interested in, I definitely suggest checking out what we already have. And then this is a Ask Admissions session. So I do want everyone in attendance to feel like you are comfortable to ask questions. I'd ask that you please use the Q&A feature at the bottom of your Zoom screen and continuously ask questions throughout the session. You don't have to wait until the end. You are more than welcome to ask questions as they come to you. I am joined by some amazing admission staff on the back end who are going to help answer some of those more admission questions. So please feel free to ask any questions as they come to you as we go through. And then we're going to end with some questions at the very end as well. All right, so let's quickly just start off with why you might be interested in the University of Pennsylvania as a place to study. So for anyone who does not know, the University of Pennsylvania is a really old institution. It was the first university in the United States of America. It was founded by Ben Franklin way back when in 1740. And then the School of Engineering was founded about 100 years after that. It's a really large school, so both in terms of how many students attend and geographically. So currently there are about 26,000 Penn students at any given time. The majority of those are graduate students. So we have 12 graduate schools at the University of Penn. Penn Engineering is just one of those 12 graduate schools. And not only that, but we have a very large institution across the city of Philadelphia. So we have over 300 acres of land across the city where there is academics, there is research, and a variety of other kind of buildings and spaces across the city of Philadelphia. And at Penn Engineering, we offer 15 different master's programs and 6 PhD programs. We have 19 research centers and institutes across campus, really focusing on various areas, engineering specific. Certainly artificial intelligence is a growing field that we're doing a lot of research in, engineering and healthcare, and robotics, just to name a few of them. We, as a Penn student, you have access to a ton of different resources across campus. So, of course, the academic buildings and libraries, there are different centers for different affinity groups as well, multiple fitness centers, and then as a Penn student, you also get a pretty much forever subscription to our career services office that happens as a student. You can use it as an alumni at any point in time after you graduate. So we really want to make sure that as a student, you are really fostering every area of growth, not just yourself academically. And then I would be remiss if I did not mention that the University of Pennsylvania is, of course, centered and located in the city of Philadelphia, which is a beautiful and also very innovative city, which I'm going to touch on. So Philadelphia has many different nicknames. One of them is the city of brotherly love. It's also known as the birthplace of the nation because it's a very, very old city. There's a lot of cobblestones, a lot of old buildings, but it's also filled with a lot of innovation and a lot of new things are always happening and growing in Philadelphia. It's currently the sixth largest city in the US, and it's really rich with history, art, culture, different festivals, educational opportunities. There's truly always something to do in Philadelphia. There's never a dull moment. So if you are someone who loves to explore and loves to learn and see new things, Philadelphia is going to be a wonderful place for you to learn and to grow. It's also a really affordable city compared to some other nearby East Coast cities, namely New York City and Washington, D.C. But it is also really close to those cities and other areas. So we are located about 2 hours south of New York City and then about 2.5 hours north of Washington, D.C. So really easy to get around. We've got a great major train station hub, airport, international airport. And within the city, we also have really accessible public transportation. So students do tend to live on or right near campus, within walking or maybe biking distance. But there's a ton of different areas in the city of Philadelphia that are wonderful places to, if not live, then to certainly explore. We also, for anyone who's a little bit more outdoorsy or really loves to spend time in nature, we have one of the largest urban parks in the world, which is known as Fairmount Park. So for anyone who loves to maybe mountain bike, hike, maybe just walking, exploring, riding horses, it's a wonderful opportunity to get outside in such a metropolitan area. And more recently, in the past decade or so, Philadelphia has really turned into a hub of life sciences, of tech, manufacturing, and science centers, especially right around us on Penn's campus. And as I mentioned, we do have 15 master's programs. These are all of our master's programs currently, and you'll see an asterisk next to two of those, the computer and information technology and the data science programs. That's because we also offer an online version of these programs. I'm not going to be going into detail about that, but there is a lot of resources and information around that. So if you are interested in an online learning environment, I do suggest checking that out as well. And how we build a community across Penn Engineering is really important to us as staff and as administrators. Penn Engineering is the largest of the 12 graduate schools across the university. Currently, there's about 4,400 students enrolled. And so we really want to make sure that students are feeling connected with each other, not just, within your program, but across the School of Engineering and across the larger institution as well. So there's a lot of different avenues for connecting with others. And as you can see, that some of the top groups are specific to Penn Engineering. So there's a student engineering group, a Dean's Doctoral Advisory Board. We have a Cora Ingram Center as well. So there's a lot of different avenues for making sure that you're connected with Penn Engineering students. We also offer graduate advisor opportunities. So our graduate advisors have open advising hours 4 days a week, both virtual and in person. We really want to meet you where you are and make sure that you're able to get, your questions answered. And you can also schedule appointments with your graduate advisor as needed. And we also really suggest students connect with not just Penn Engineering students, but also University of Penn students. So many of the programs we offer allow for elective options to take outside of Penn Engineering. There's also just a wealth of knowledge, learning and growing from other students at such a large hub of learning. So a couple of the bottom of the screen groups are really specific to just graduate students. So we have a graduate and professional student assembly. We call that GAPSA, and that's really a group that just makes sure that graduate student concerns and voices are being heard, because it's obviously very unique compared to undergraduate voices. There's just different things that need to be taken into consideration for grad students. They also plan really specific events to just graduate students. So those are both professional and academic in nature, but they're also fun, like different concert series and things like that. We have a graduate student center. They do a lot of work with GAPSA, as you might imagine, but it's a really great resource because it's the only center on campus that's only for graduate students. So your Penn ID has to be marked as a grad student to even get in the building. And they host a ton of events really regularly, anything from de-stressing crafts to helping you write your dissertation. They have wonderful resources for students who maybe are bringing their families to learn in Philadelphia, and other, other types of students who might have different things they need to balance as a graduate student. And for my international prospective students, we do have an International Student and Scholar Services office. We call them ISSS because that is quite a mouthful. And all of our international students get a personal ISSS advisor once you matriculate into a program. And that person is there to answer any visa questions, OPT, Social Security questions, anything that you might have. They really work with you throughout your tenure as a student. And they also host a ton of different welcome events throughout the semester. They really work hard to make sure that our international students specifically feel really welcome and at home while they're studying at Penn. Now I want to transition to talking about application requirements really briefly. And this is an area where we get a lot of questions. So I'm going to go through everything and then kind of delve into a couple areas where we get a lot of questions. So generally speaking, the first step is the online application in itself. So everything we do is online, it's virtual. We only send emails. You're not going to get any paper anything in the physical mail from us. It's all online. So within that online application, we require a resume, a personal statement, letters of recommendation, transcripts, English proficiency scores, if applicable, which I'll touch on, and an application fee. And I want to be really clear that the application fee is not waived for attending events. It is required in order to be reviewed for admission. Some students choose to submit the GRE, which is absolutely fine. I'll talk a little bit about that as well, but it is not required. It is entirely optional for all of our programs. So to delve into a couple areas a little bit deeper, the personal statement is an area we get a lot of questions on. So we have really brief instructions, so I just want to clarify. We say that in 2 pages or less, write an essay that answers the questions below. And I do mean in 2 pages or less. So we get some students who will try to change fonts so that it's, a really small font so that they can fit more information in. My advice is that if it's not easily readable to you, it will not be for the admissions team and the folks who are reviewing your application. So use your best judgment there, but typically font size 11 or 12 is going to be great, with a font size that's not, that's kind of ordinary and just really easy to read. We also ask that you do answer all of the personal statement prompts provided. It's not, either or. We ask them all for really specific reasons. So please make sure that you're addressing all of the personal statement prompts when you're submitting that. And transcripts are another area that can be really confusing. So to break things down a little bit, in order to submit your application and be reviewed for admission, we only require unofficial transcripts from any and all schools that you've attended. So we do want to see all of the grades from all of the schools that you've attended. Transcripts do have to include courses taken and the grades that you received. Please, we're seeing an uptick in transcripts that come to us through an online portal or another avenue that don't have your name and the school's name. So please do make sure that they also have your name so we can match it to your application. If your unofficial transcript is not in English, you do have to have that transcript either evaluated or use a translation service. Otherwise, we're not going to be able to review the transcripts that you've provided. And if you've studied outside of the US, you do need to provide some sort of grading key that outlines your school's grading scale. Otherwise, we're not going to know how to compare your grades to the United States grading system. So our office does reach out to you if we see that any of your transcripts aren't meeting these requirements. We will reach out to you. We'll always reach out to you if anything is missing or illegible, or we can't read something. So don't worry, we will be reaching out, but just please, it allows us to move a little bit faster if everything is submitted when you submit your application. And for letters of recommendation, you have room to submit up to 3 letters of recommendation, but only 2 are required. So we say on this slide that we require, but I would like to change that to we strongly recommend that 1 letter be academic in nature and 1 letter be professional in nature. If you've been out of school for more than 5 years and you don't have maybe that connection with any faculty or anyone academically related, you can absolutely substitute your academic letter for a professional one. And our general advice is to really just begin having conversations with your potential recommenders early on and make sure that they agree to submit positive letters of recommendation. We see a lot of maybe short or lackluster letters that really are not going to strengthen your application. And we don't require that letters be on any type of professional letterhead, but it is best practice if you're able to. One thing I'll also note is that you are able to send reminder emails to your recommenders once you submit your application, and we also send reminder emails to them. So they're kind of continuously being nudged along, but we do require that your letters of recommendation are submitted by the deadline. So it's really important that you kind of stay on top of your letter writers. And just to touch on the GRE, again, it is not required. If you do choose to submit your GRE scores, they do have to be official and come directly from ETS. Our score code is 2888. They also need to be valid, which means they have to have been taken within the past 5 years. And for folks who might not know if the GRE is a good option for you, it tends to be really helpful for students who have been out of school for a long time, and they want to kind of supplement and show their quantitative ability, or if maybe you received lower grades in your undergrad, especially maybe in quant classes, you want to show that that quantitative ability through the GRE, you're more than welcome to send your GRE scores. But again, not required. And then the last area we get a lot of questions on, so I want to give a little bit of time for this, is our English proficiency scores and waivers policy. So generally speaking, applicants that are non-US citizens and whose first language is not English must submit English proficiency scores. So we accept the TOEFL, the IELTS, the Duolingo test. It's totally up to you which test works best for you, which one's more accessible. We accept the at-home version of all of these tests as well. And I've also listed the suggested scores to aim for based on the general success of students in our classrooms after they've been admitted. And many people who apply will actually get this requirement waived automatically. So we do offer waivers if you meet the criteria listed here. So from a program, if you will graduate from a program in the United States, or from a school in a country where English is the official language, or from a school where the medium of instruction is in English, as long as that's clearly indicated on the transcript. So please note that this happens manually after you apply. So I have a wonderful team of folks who are looking for these items to waive this requirement for you. So for folks who submit your application, please be a little patient because it does take a couple days to waive this manually. When you submit your application, you'll see a checklist, and it will probably not immediately say that this is waived because we still have to do that manually. So just give us a couple days to process your application, and then it will very likely be waived. And lastly, the important dates and deadlines I want everyone to be kind of thinking about and mark down. February 1st is the master's application deadline. So that is the date that we suggest you have submitted your application by, otherwise it will not be reviewed for admission. It also should be completed by that date. So really thinking about the letters of recommendation and ensuring they're submitted by February 1st as well. So that is the deadline, the last possible day to submit and have your application be completed in order to have your application reviewed for fall of 2026. All decisions are released by early April, probably by April 1st, but always by early April at the very latest. It will depend on how many applications we get at the end. So one thing I just want to add here is I always suggest to not wait to the last minute to submit your application. I know that that does not always happen, but it's generally less stressful for students if you're able to submit your application at least a couple days before that deadline, just to make sure, like I said, it has to be complete. So just to make sure that all materials are in by February 1st as well. And lastly, any final questions you might have, again, please put them in the Q&A for now and we'll get to them. But if you want to peruse our website a little bit more, there's some great opportunities to do so. And our email is here as well. And now I'm going to pass it along to my colleague, Liana, with the Electrical and Systems Engineering Master's Program.
Thank you so much, Abby, for all of this information. Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for attending today. I'm excited to be speaking with you about both the EE Masters and the SE Masters programs. So I'm just going to go ahead and share some slides. Okay, just give it 1 second. The Zoom window. One moment. I think it should be, nope. So sorry. My Zoom toolbar is blocking the bar that I need. 1 quick second. Thank you so much for your patience. Here it is. Okay. So within the ESC department, we do have 2 Master of Science in Engineering degrees, the Electrical Engineering Masters, as well as the Systems Engineering Masters. We'll talk about the Electrical Engineering Masters first. So some sample undergraduate majors that our students have had include electrical engineering, computer engineering, physics, as well as communications, transportation, and telecommunications engineering. In general, students are expected to typically have an undergraduate background that provides a strong background in undergraduate electrical engineering or physics subjects and mathematics. What does the overall curriculum look like? So overall in the EE Master's degree, you will complete 10 course units. That's about 10 courses, and it is distributed into these 4 categories. The first one is the EE Core, where you will take 5 courses. Then there's ESE electives, which will be 2 courses. Then there will be 1 CES elective, where students may select graduate level courses from a number of departments here in our School of Engineering. Then we have 2 CUs of advisor-approved electives, where students may choose to take further electives within graduate engineering courses. They may also choose from a select list of pre-approved courses from schools outside of engineering. Overall, students typically complete our degree in 1.5 to 2 years, assuming you are studying full-time. If you're interested in specializing, students do have the option, not the requirement, but the option to declare a concentration. The options to declare a concentration include mixed signal RF integrated circuits, computer engineering, nanotechnology and semiconductors, photonics quantum technology, artificial intelligence, embedded systems, and robotics. Please be aware that a concentration would be 4 CUs within your regular 10 CUs for the overall MSc EE. What job might you get after graduation? So here are some jobs that have been reported by our MSc EE graduates: robotics engineer, analyst, firmware engineer, hardware engineer, verification engineer, software engineer, R&D engineer, product engineer, analog circuit designer. This is not an exhaustive list, just a sample. All right, moving on to systems engineering. So some sample undergraduate majors for the systems engineering program include industrial engineering, electrical engineering, mechanical engineering, as well as other quantitative majors such as mathematics or applied mathematics, statistics, economics, or finance. In general, students should typically have an undergraduate degree in engineering, mathematical, physical, or economic sciences. If you are a student from another major, you should have demonstrated expertise in quantitative and computer analyses. What does the curriculum look like for the SE, Systems Engineering Masters? Similar to the EE Masters, you will still need to complete 10 CUs, typically in 1.5 to 2 years for students studying full-time. How it's distributed within the SE degree is first the SE Foundation, which will be 5 CUs. Then you'll have 1 CU for the ESE elective, 2 CUs of technical electives, and then 2 CUs from the application area electives, which I'll talk about in the next slide. So within the SE degree, students are expected to gain depth in a single application area as listed here. Please be aware you will need to choose 2 CUs, typically 2 courses within the same application area. The application areas that we have available are energy and environment, engineering entrepreneurship, transportation and logistics, human factors IPD, robotics, embedded systems IoT, healthcare, statistics, revenue management, accounting, and finance. And what job might you get after graduation? Here are some sample jobs reported by our MSc SE graduates: data scientist, business analyst, data engineer, product manager, AI researcher, software engineer, business intelligence analyst, technical consultant, quantitative research analyst. Again, this is not an exhaustive list. I will say our SE graduates do go on to a wide variety of fields, but this is a sample of some of our recent graduates. Okay, so I made my presentation short in order to allow more time for questions. So that is the end of my slides.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Nana. We have 2 questions that have come in, and I would encourage folks to continue to ask questions. One of them is, how long does it take to complete a dual MBA, MSc in systems engineering, assuming, of course, that you're accepted into both programs?
Yes, this is a great question. So we do have that very exciting option to complete a dual MBA and dual Master of Science and Engineering in Systems Engineering. I do need to double check this. I will say I think it can slightly vary depending on the unique student. I would say typically it probably takes about 3 years. It might be 3 years plus 1 extra semester, but I would say typically about 3 years. This is because the Wharton degree, the Wharton MBA typically takes 2 years. You are able to double count a number of courses that are pre-approved between your 2 programs, which we would discuss if you were admitted to the program. So that will help shorten the time a little bit, but you do really need all of that time for the MBA coursework, plus typically an extra year to complete the engineering coursework.
Yeah, that's a great point, and also true of any dual degrees. There are general timelines, but it really does depend on what's available to you and how it works with any other dual degree that you're working. So we have someone asking, is it odd for students to come straight to either the EE or the SE program straight out of college? I just turned 20, but I finished my studies in the US. How old is the average ESE student?
So we don't have numbers on average ages of students. I will say it is very common to come straight out of undergraduate. We certainly do have students who have graduated with their bachelor's degree a number of years ago who have been working in the field or perhaps a closely related field who then return for their master's degree, but it is very common for students to come straight out of undergraduate. So I would say that's very normal.
We have someone who is interested in the accelerated master's EE or SE program. Is there a list of required courses taken during the first 3 or 4 years at Penn in order to be eligible for admission for the accelerated master's option?
So in terms of the systems engineering masters, specifically for the accelerated masters, we don't have a specific list of required courses that are very strict requirements before you could be admitted to the program. The thing that I will note is within both EE and SE, when students are in the program, we typically advise you to complete your EE core or SE foundation respectively first. Within the SE degree, it is important to be aware that all of the SE foundation courses expect students to have a thorough background in probability. If a student is missing a course in probability, we do have a course available. I believe it's ENM 5030, but I can double check that. So in general, there are no specific required courses, but if you're interested in the systems engineering degree, please be aware we advise that you take the foundation courses first, and the SE foundation courses all expect that you do have an understanding of probability as by taking a probability course.
Yeah. Are there any concerns for someone applying to an ESC program if they have 12 years of work experience?
That's a great question. So earlier I mentioned that it's very normal. There are a lot of students who come straight out of undergraduate. However, please note it is not an issue. There are no concerns from our end if you do have more extensive work experience. As I did mention, we do typically in each of our incoming cohorts have students who have been out of undergraduate for some time. I don't have specific numbers, unfortunately, to share, but we definitely have students who have been away from their undergraduate for some time who do have experience in the field. I think there are a lot of great things that you can bring from that to a master's. And we know that students may be returning for a master's at different points in their career.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I just want to reiterate for anyone who maybe does have a little bit more work experience, just make sure that you're obviously including that in your resume, in the application, including that in the application itself. We ask for all of your work background. And then again, you're more than welcome to, if that situation is similar for you, you don't feel the need to necessarily have an academic letter of recommendation if you don't still have those connections with previous faculty or instructors, because we don't expect you to have kept that connection necessarily. Any other program-specific questions? I want to make sure we can get to those. So one question that we get for a lot of different programs is, what are benefits of our ESC program options, maybe compared to other schools with similar programs?
Yes. So I will say, I think the ESE department offering both our EE Masters and our SE Masters, within having two programs, I think we offer a lot of cool options within each one. And then furthermore, if you're thinking about which one to apply to, we have a little bit of difference, of course, if you're studying the EE program versus the SE program. So I would say some of the main benefits of the EE program would be definitely the option to declare a concentration. So EE in general is a very broad field. We know that students in EE may be studying a very wide range of subjects, even though their major may all say EE. Because we have the ability to declare a concentration, you are able to, if you do complete the requirements for that concentration, have an official notation on your transcript that you did complete a concentration in a specific area. We know that especially as students are graduating and going out to look for jobs in the workforce, it can be very valuable to have that official certification of a school recognized specialization in a certain area. I think this is a really exciting option for students. I know not all programs offer the ability to specialize within EE, which can be so broad. So I would say that's a very big strength of our EE program. I would say one of the other strengths of the EE program is sort of in tandem or a little bit in opposition to the concentration is if a student is interested in studying the diverse range of subjects included under the wide umbrella of EE, that is possible as well. It is certainly not required to declare a concentration. We do have students who study subjects within a number of other schools. As I mentioned, there are 2 CUs available, 2 courses typically in the curriculum, which can be taken at other schools at Penn. Some of the more popular options for students who choose to go outside of engineering to complete those advisor-approved electives include taking courses in statistics, marketing, and management from the Wharton School, students who have taken upper-level physics courses from the School of Arts and Sciences, and we even have had students take a course from the law school, which was related to technical scientific concepts within law. And so I would say there's a lot of flexibility and range within the EE Master's program. Within the SE Master's program, I think a sort of similar to the concentration would be the application area. So the design of the systems engineering degree is that students first acquire a very thorough foundation in those fundamental systems engineering concepts through the SE Foundation coursework. You are then prepared to move on to advanced electives within ESE, within those technical electives, as well as the application area. The application area is an amazing way to demonstrate that you have gained depth in a specific area. The foundation of systems engineering can be applied to so many different fields, and we know that our systems engineering graduates go on to a wide number of different areas. The application areas, similar to EE, do also allow students to study in schools outside of engineering. Some students may take all of their courses from engineering, which is great. There are definitely application areas for you if you're interested in focusing on primarily engineering school coursework coursework. However, we also do have the ability for students to be studying in schools outside of the engineering school. And as Abby mentioned in the introduction, I think that's one of the big strengths of Penn in general is how much access and resources between schools that students have. So for example, we have application areas like finance, statistics, revenue management. Those involve taking courses from, again, the Wharton School, the healthcare application area. I believe some of those courses are in engineering. Some of them may be in other schools outside of engineering as well.
And are there opportunities for ESC students to do research during their master's program?
Yes, so students are able to do research in their program, and they can do that at any manner of times. I will say it is most common for students to be focusing on coursework during their first semester, and then to start getting involved in research work perhaps in the second semester onward. With that being said, it is technically possible to get involved in research work even in your first semester. This is something that you can start thinking about even as you're applying to Penn Engineering, thinking about which faculty or labs are doing work in areas that you may be interested in. This is also something that students may not know for sure that they are interested in doing research, but through taking a course with a professor or attending a research seminar, they may learn about an area and then wish to get involved in it. So I would say it is definitely possible in general. The ways that you can get involved in research could be as a research assistant, which is typically an hourly paid or volunteer position. You are also able to get academic credit for research work. So something I didn't mention within the curriculum is that if a student is interested in completing research work for academic credit, they do have the option to apply to complete an ESE master's thesis. This would typically be done in the final year of the master's program. So if you're studying full-time, it's typically going to be in that second year. And this would be 2 CUs within your overall 10 CUs. And it culminates in the production of an official thesis manuscript, which is a really valuable experience in itself, as well as something that is listed on your transcript. This is something that you can take with you when applying for jobs or potentially applying for PhD or doctoral programs in the future.
And Lana, can you talk a little bit more about the quantum engineering program?
So great question. And let me just really quickly glance back to the concentrations. So one of our concentration areas that we do have available within the MSc degree is photonics and quantum technology. This is a really great area. I think one of the other strengths, which I think we probably already mentioned in this, is the faculty. The faculty at Penn are amazing. We have some of the strongest faculty in so many different areas. This area is no exception. If you are able to, I highly recommend that you check out the Penn Engineering faculty directory. You are able to sort by department. And then beyond there, each professor typically has a research or personal website linked where you can learn more about what their personal research is on, what their group is doing, perhaps courses that they have taught. I would say we definitely have a good number of courses within the quantum area. We have some very strong faculty in the quantum area, and I know in the past few years we have had students completing research in that area as well.
And do students have the opportunity to or often work with professors as either research assistants or teaching assistants in any capacity?
Yes, absolutely. Students have the ability to work as research assistants and or as teaching assistants or graders. I will say, similar to what I mentioned in the research portion earlier, it tends to be more common for students to focus mostly on completing coursework in their first semester. And typically, if they get involved in TA or RA work, it tends to be in the second semester onward. However, it may be possible to start TA or RA work even during your first semester. I would say in terms of getting a position like that, typically you will need to be able to describe your experience with the material to be able to be a TA, for example, or perhaps your past research experience if applying for an RA position. For TA positions, for example, sometimes it will be that a student takes a course in their first semester, does very well, and then they reach out to the professor to request if it might be possible to work for them as a TA in a future semester.
Great. I know we get a lot of questions about that in general. And could you please explain the main differences between pursuing robotics through the MSc and the EE with a robotics concentration versus the robotics program offered through the GRASP lab?
Yes, this is a great question. And I know because the word robotics is in both of those, you may be thinking, what is the difference? So I will say, of course, there will be some overlap between programs. Both the robotics Master of Science and Engineering program on its own, as well as the MSc EE degree with a concentration in robotics. I would say something to look at very carefully is what courses you're hoping to take. In a master's degree, you are largely completing coursework, maybe a little bit of research work, but a lot of it is going to be coursework. What I do encourage you to do is review the eligibility of different courses within each degree. So for example, if you are a student who wanted to pursue finance courses at Wharton or statistics courses at Wharton, I will say I am not the robotics MSc advisor, so I am not as familiar with their curriculum, but as an advisor with the MSc EE program, I can tell you that students could complete both that MSc EE degree with a concentration in robotics and still take a few electives from Wharton. I am not as familiar with the robotics MSc curriculum, but it is possible that may or may not be possible within their curriculum. It is also possible that perhaps there may be some coursework that is only eligible to be completed through the robotics MSc program, but not as possible within the MSc EE degree with a concentration in robotics. So it will be a little bit specific, but I encourage you to take a careful look at the curricular requirements for the MSc robotics program, as well as the MSc EE program. Think about which courses you might want to take. This may help clarify your decision as to which program may be a better fit.
Yeah, that's a wonderful point that I just want to echo of all of our programs. So if you're maybe on the fence or you're not sure which program you want to pursue, that's totally normal. And all of our programs have a really robust, everyone has their own individual web page. So just to echo that, do make sure you're doing your due diligence in looking through each program you might be interested in. Similarly, we also have a actually brief presentation from our robotics program manager. So if you want to gain a little bit more information about that program or other programs, that's on our YouTube page. So you can feel free to peruse that as well. I am going to give Leanna just a quick minute break so that I can get to a couple questions. I know you've been answering a lot of questions. So one question we just got is about the application question, exploring community at Penn. And so their question is, should this answer be specific to the ESE program or more general? And my advice to you in terms of this question, this is really a question we want to know truly how you plan to get involved at Penn. So for some students, that is just academic in nature, and that is absolutely fine. So it could be very program specific. Other students do tend to get really involved on campus in many different ways. So we kind of just want to hear about how you see yourself as a student at Penn, taking advantage of opportunities, different groups you might want to join, maybe not just through Penn Engineering, but beyond. There's really no wrong answer here. It's just how you kind of envision yourself as a Penn student. We want to hear about that. And then another question is about how applications are reviewed and what that looks like in our office and in the program offices. So just kind of broad strokes for answering that question. Once your application is submitted and completed, it is moved to the admissions team to ensure that all required documentation and materials are there, everything is legible, everything is truly complete. And from there, the admissions team moves your application to the program. And each program really does operate a little bit differently, but typically all applications are reviewed by program staff as well as program faculty. Again, this differs a little bit here and there, but that's typically the order of operations. It goes through admissions and then it goes through the program specifically to make those final decisions.
Yes, thank you. Maybe I could add on to that, Abby.
Please,
Perhaps
yes.
one thing I'm sensing from this question, I will say if you are considering applying for a PhD or a doctoral program, you may be aware that the professor is very important. I will say applying to a master's degree, specifically the EE and SE masters, as Abby mentioned, this may differ for other programs, but at least for our programs, students do not need to have a specific faculty of interest in mind when they are applying. It's great if you have taken a look and you have already identified professors that you would like to take courses with or perhaps try to do research with, but it is certainly not a requirement and that is not going to be part of the application. You do not apply directly to a professor.
Awesome. Thank you so much for bringing that up because we get that question quite a bit. And then somebody else is asking about funding opportunities for master's programs. So I just want to address that really quickly as well. We unfortunately do not offer any Penn Engineering specific scholarship or funding opportunities. Almost all students either receive outside funding in various avenues or take loans out to pursue their graduate degree. There's nothing to apply for through Penn Engineering. If you have further questions, I do suggest reaching out to our colleagues over at our graduate aid office. We can put that information in the chat for you if you have any questions about how students tend to pay for degrees. And then another question for you, Leanna, is, are there any specific EE or SE industry events, classes, or support that is truly unique to Penn and this program?
Yes, this is a great question. So other things that I'm happy to expand upon with regard to why the EE Masters and SE Masters are both amazing programs. So some of the things that you mentioned, so sorry, I'm just going back to the question. Let's see. Okay, so just to make sure I go through those. One of the ones that I first noticed was you asked about specific classes. One of the most exciting new classes that we have within the EE Masters program, it is new within the past few years, is the CHIPS Design and CHIPS Measurements sequence. This is an amazing course. I believe it is fully one of a kind, where students get to, in the spring semester, design a chip. During the summer, that chip is fabricated, and then in the fall, students perform measurements on that chip. This level of experience, the time and knowledge that you will gain from this, and in working with one of our amazing faculty members very closely, it's a small course, so you have a lot of face time and engagement, is unparalleled. The output and the number of students who have told me how much this course was valuable to them, both for their personal growth, for their career search, has been huge. So I would say the CHIPS sequence, that is again going to be 2 courses, first in spring, then in fall, is one of the best courses I think we have in terms of new courses within EE. So I think that's a really exciting class. In terms of industry events, we do have a lot of industry events as well. A lot of these tend to be offered either hosted by or in collaboration with our wonderful Penn Career Services office. They are the office that manages all career services across Penn, but even within them, we do have a dedicated team of advisors who work specifically with students who are studying engineering. And so they do have a lot of expertise in the kind of industries, companies that students are looking at. I'll give an example. In the past, I believe it was maybe last month, I believe we had our AI industry days. Of course, AI is a big, exciting industry now. One of the other ones that we have had in the past includes semiconductor days, semiconductors being another exciting field that many students are interested in. And during these multi-day events, Career Services, in collaboration with other offices, did bring many employers to campus to network with students, for students to learn more about opportunities for internships, for full-time roles, learning about the field, getting to network with other professionals and students interested in those fields. Those are things that will definitely be available to you. I would say, of course, semiconductors is probably a little bit more EE focused. AI is really both EE and SE. And then let me see. In terms of other support, I would say something to be aware of is that you will have a lot of support across many different offices. Something about Penn that I think is really valuable is we have such a wide range of support from your program advisor. You will have a program advisor on the staff side. You will have a faculty and ESE professor who is your advisor as well. You will also have support from offices such as Abby mentioned, the Graduate Office of Academic Services. I can't even name all of the different offices that you will have access to, but to be able to access specialists in such a wide variety of areas will really complement your student experience, will make sure that you are able to thrive, able to get the most out of this, and then set you up for a great launch into your career or next step. It can be a little overwhelming sometimes how many offices and people are here to support you, but I do think it's one of Penn's biggest strengths and something that students regularly tell me. It is the people at Penn, the networks, the access to support that really ensured that their experience was great.
Yeah, I'm really glad you brought that up because we do have, I know I had gone through a couple of, resources and groups for students, but to that point, there are so many of them, and it can be really overwhelming. So you, as a student at Penn, you can rest assured that you are being supported, not just academically, but emotionally, and in many different ways to make sure that you are thriving as a student. And another question has come in that is a little bit more admission related and timeline related. So some in the past, and this kind of depends year to year, but some programs operate on a rolling admission basis in that they will release decisions as they're being reviewed. Now, again, this changes year to year entirely based on how many applications we are receiving and how quickly people can get through and review those applications. So it's not something that we can guarantee by any means. And it is why we do tend to say and kind of continue to say, you can expect your decision by April 1st, because we really cannot guarantee that you're going to receive any decision any earlier than that. That might happen, but we cannot guarantee it. It's really going to depend on how many applications we end up receiving. And as I kind of hinted at earlier, most students do tend to wait until the deadline to submit their application. So we're not usually able to tell in advance, but the earlier you submit your application, that's more for your benefit than necessarily our benefit as a team. It just allows you to make sure that, all of your materials have been received by the deadline rather than getting or feeling a little frantic on February 1st, which inevitably does happen. And that's totally fine. We'll be there to support you, but it sometimes just reduces some of that stress just a little bit. Any final questions in our last couple minutes? If not, I will end just a couple minutes early, and I want to say thank you so much, Leanna. These questions and your answers have been so helpful. To all of the prospective students that attended, thank you so much for joining. If you do have any additional questions for the admissions team or for the program, again, I really encourage you to reach out to either of us directly. Admissions is here to support you. All of the programs are here to support you in making the decisions to apply to whatever program or programs make the most sense for you. So with that, thank you so much. And we will be in touch and be continuously communicating with you before the deadline. Thank you all so much.